So just to remind members of the public that the meeting's being recorded, the section just over there to my left-hand side at the back isn't recorded on the system, but otherwise the cameras pick you up in the audience there. And councillors are being recorded from a camera just at the front of us. So just the start of the meeting, we'll go into the public session first. So the first item is to receive a presentation from the guest speaker. And do we have one today? Janice Curran, we've got a guest speaker. Do you want a microphone to? No. Okay, just shout out. Some of us are a bit hard of hearing. Thank you very much. We are still in the public session, but it might be sensible for us to take some comments from councillors now. Colin first, and then Stuart.
Is there any cost to the parish council?
I don't know at this stage. I've been asked to move things work forward, so we're at the stage of trying to convene a meeting with the parish council who are interested in a discussion of move forward from there. Okay, there's a couple of options we discussed just to have to move forward. Okay.
And Stuart, and then Christine.
Yeah, just a quick one. I mean, I look at this in a negative light. To be honest about that, because I don't know the details, because I've just spoken to the chair. Maybe what needs to happen is we need to have a letter from somebody at RMBC explaining what the process is, so we can discuss what it involves and what it doesn't involve. The reason I look in a negative light is this: I, along with everybody else in this room, pays taxes to RMBC, and part of them taxes, a small fraction, but obviously, goes towards clean neighbourhoods, litter picking, the enforcement of dog offending, etc. And what's happening, and it's still happening now, is RMBC are making drastic cuts. Regardless of whatever political reason, they are having drastic cuts, and I'm quite happy to acknowledge that. But what's happening in turn is they're having drastic cuts, saving money, but they're passing the costs on to parish councils. For instance, I'm quite sure there'll be some financial contribution to be made by parish council this year. And you're nodding your head, which makes me... Yeah. Well, all right, yeah, sorry, I don't know the detail. But the point I'm making is, I already pay my taxes. And for me to be in a position where I think I might have to pay more on my parish council fees to cover the things that RMBC are cutting, I don't think that personally that's right. And I know there's lots and lots of other people starting to say now is, what are we paying our tax to government for? Because we're getting cuts all over the place and it's being passed on to the parish. So more detail would be better. Thank you.
Christine.
You know, we've got everything in front and for Christmas. And therefore, asking if we want anybody who might be a volunteer or something, at a cost of £350 each for the training, with absolutely no guarantee that anybody's going to take any notice of the volunteer level.
I wasn't quite sure on how close we got with going out to parish council.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And emailed him back and pointed out the pitfalls. Number one, I've been walking around this village for 45 years and never seen anybody got on yet. The vaccine campaign. the job board needs themselves have a lot of trouble enforcing it, because if the dog family chooses not to give their name address, there's no explanation. So I just feel to put off their tax and to pay £350 training after what Stuart said, in particular, after having it an unsuccessful.
I'm not aware of the figures for training, and I've noticed what council thought and has said no, take them away with me, but I do believe that the other three parish councils want to move forward, so those three will need to look at the pilot on looking at different options and ways to move forward. So I guess council thought and with the issues that you've got, you could take to the meeting to look at moving pilot project towards using parish council.
Can I just interrupt? So, obviously this sounds fairly far advanced, so how come the council has never seen anything or heard anything of it? This is the first I've heard of your project tonight.
This has been taken 4 minutes in February, and working through that in February, and I've just been asked to move it forward to progress it.
Well, I'm not going to go any violence. What I'm saying is, this is the first we've heard of it tonight, but it seems quite far progressed.
Other way. Yeah, that's it.
Right, thank you. Sorry about that. If I can just add a bit to this, I'm on the actual Town and Parish Council, or Parish and Town Council working group that came up with this as a suggestion, and what it's stemmed from is the fact that there is so little cover in this part of the borough, and the idea at the end of the day is hopefully this, if it goes ahead, will be self-financing, because whatever this appointed officer would do would have the powers to enforce dog fouling, parking offences and things like that. And the idea is that they would undergo proper training, and hopefully it would be at no cost to the parish councils, because the more that joined in, then he's got a bigger area to work on, and hopefully some of the issues, it would help resolve some of those that we've got in this area, especially say parking, which is becoming a bit of a problem. I think Dinnington, I don't know where their status is on this. I know they were involved in this, but we've not had a meeting in this group since February, which is the reason we're playing catch up. Paul Griffiths has left the authority, so Janice is trying to pick up on that work. Something did come on the agenda in March, I think it was, when I wasn't here, about something to do with this, and I think the council's view was we don't want anything to do with it. But as I say, the idea was we did a pilot project and see how it went. If it didn't achieve its aims, then I don't think it would go any further than that. But it's one of these, if you don't try it, you don't know whether it'll work or not. So the idea was to employ somebody from outside the area who wasn't known, because if you employ somebody locally, then obviously anything could happen to them if somebody takes issue with them. So the idea was that to set somebody on, given the powers through RMBC for enforcement, and work it through all the sort of local bylaws and regulations to allow them to go around the different villages and use these powers, and hopefully what income they generated from fines and things like that would go towards their employment costs. It might be that it doesn't work at the end of the day, but it's one of these, if we don't try it, we'll never know. And it was seen as a chance to get some enforcement in some of the villages that we don't necessarily get now because of lack of officers available from RMBC. So it's not a fact that the Borough Council is trying to put this cost onto us that we already pay for. It's trying to give us a bit more power in this area that we haven't got at the moment. And I go to the traffic management meetings, and one of the biggest issues is parking issues in Wales all over the villages, and it's something that they can't, they haven't got enough staff to get around. So the idea was they would work locally and see how it went from there. So that's where it's at the moment. I mean, I'm quite prepared. I think is it on the agenda for Thursday, Janice, at the meeting? Are you attending that?
Yeah.
I've looked at the agenda today, I can't remember if it's on or not. I think
it's only on for the date fixed.
Yeah.
For,
I mean, I'm quite willing to go along, seeing as I'm on that group, to attend and see what comes out of the meeting and come back and see whether we would be interested if we got a bit more detail as to how it would work. But it's down to the Borough Council to train somebody up to give them the necessary powers, so we need to progress it, see how that works. So that's where we are at the moment. Thank you.
I'm just conscious of taking up time in public session. It's good to see lots of members of the public here tonight, actually. Can we take Miles and then try and go back to
Yeah, I
questions?
was going to say, at the moment, I'd rather us, as it's not costing anything at the moment, it'd probably be better as a council if we were part of it, and part of the decision-making process, and probably get involved and find out what costs can be and what benefits can be to the area. And just how we progress, actually, how would we put somebody on there as well? Do we elect them, or do we decide, this one just volunteer for it?
Great, thank you very much. So I think in response to that, would you be able to write to the clerk with a proposal? Because we can't discuss anything tonight unless it's on the agenda because of the requirement for statutory notification of items on the agenda. So if you could write to Anna, and then Anna will put it on the next available agenda. Thank you very much. So that's item A. We don't have any other presentations today. So now we've got B, to allow questions relating to the charity, to the recreation ground that will be relayed to the charity. So, question at the back. That's on the next item. So under this, sorry, there was a question from a councillor there, just to say that whether you were allowed one or two questions, but actually the agenda says to allow questions plural, whereas it's the next item D that's one question per elector. So sorry, we caught the first bit, so the management plan. Can you just shout it with the second bit of the question? I know that's, like you say, it's partly charity, potentially council. Do councillors want to comment? Okay, we'll relay that to the charity and then we'll discuss that at the next charity meeting. Of course. Would you be able to drop your email address to Anna at the end? Okay. Any other questions relating to the recreation ground? Was that sorry? No? Great. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so we'll go on to item C, to allow representations regarding planning applications within the civil parish of Anston to be considered later on in the meeting when we get to those items. So do we have any questions about planning matters? Okay, no questions relating to planning matters? So we'll go on to item D, which is to allow one question per elector on the topic for which the parish council has responsibility. So, questions from members of the public, please. Sorry? It's simply just the question itself, to allow one question per elector. So. Great. Do we have? Can you just have a quick show of hands for how many questions we have? So we've got quite a few questions. So it might be more efficient if we took them down and then replied in one go rather than entering into a conversation. So can we take the next question? Yeah, gentleman at the back.
Allotments within the South Anston, then major, fascinatingly, I think it's nearly 5 months now. There's no action being taken on. I don't really see what all of this is already being passed. So I'd like information why it's not being started.
So Sorry, we're having a bit of difficulty hearing, so it's about the allotments, an explanation as to why
Why them bays haven't been started?
the composting
Yeah,
bays.
it was passed at least 4 to 5 months ago with the council meeting.
Okay, so question as to why the composting bays haven't been constructed yet. Next question.
Recreation ground. I see that there's something on the agenda.
That's right.
Tonight, but it might not be relevant to what I want to ask.
Okay, feel free to ask.
Well, dog owners, I don't know whether the council are aware, but dog owners are meeting on the recreation field, and there's dog feeders everywhere. It's not safe for children to play on there. I can't take my great granddaughters on there because it's just disgusting. And the playground needs a lot of maintenance. I've looked at other playgrounds in Anderson. This is the worst and lacking equipment. The sling swing is broken and the bridge over the slide is unsafe. And Todrick had a sign saying children's playground, no dogs, no dogs. So I'd like to know if the council can do something about it.
I think that will be partly answered when we discuss that item. So on the agenda today is some signage and some measures that we can take for that, but we'll write that down as a question. So effectively, what action the council will take for Lockwood. Great. Sorry, we'll go question at the side there.
In relation to Mrs. Gold's question, so I would just like to know how you reply to the parts of wood. The question is that she's asking when realistically, I mean, as a parish council, I believe that the woodland as a whole, whether it be a charity question or whether it be a council question, because it's a shared entity that you own through both departments, then I believe that the question should be answered whether it be a charity meeting or whether it be a council meeting.
So your question is.
Taking a question, I'm just questioning why you won't answer Mrs. Gold's question at the council meeting, because I don't think it should be segregated. She can't really segregate part of wood and she's talking about.
Okay, I'll invite councillors to respond to that in a second. And one final question at the back. Oh, sorry.
My problem is, I'm back onto it, and there's like noise coming from it, really, like most of the day. And they did it, it works up. I should take my grandchildren on my garden there. Take my grandchildren on my garden here. It's just like, there's just thousands of abusive language coming from that car.
Okay.
It's most days, and it's most other days. It's not one group of children, it's different groups of children at different times. And I don't see why, really. Like the lady wanted an officer, something like that, would walk around there and say, well, man, people, I don't think the children around there realise that anybody else lives on the side of the fence.
So what action could be taken? Is this Lockwood as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. What action could be taken because of noise?
Yeah. I think if somebody of authority walked around every now and again and said, well, man, people living there, we don't want language, we don't want to come happening too late at night either.
Which is our past now.
Half past 10 at night, we're still playing football.
12 o'clock.
I think again some of that might be answered later on because we're looking at a gate and signage for the park. Sorry, I missed you at the front there.
Yeah, I'd like to ask each and every one of the panel to come to my house to experience these noises. Going into the park, you're wasting your time. You need to come, not just in my garden, not on my patio, you need to come and sit in my house. I have got recordings, I can say that now, which is from last night at 10:30 of you shouting, swearing, and we live at side of the general. And my windows on that side, I have no peace from 7 in the morning with the dog till 12 o'clock at night when kids decide to go home. I've got hundreds of videos. I'd like to play one from last night, if you want.
Can we? I'm just conscious of.
I haven't got that option. I haven't got that option to say, we can't hear what we're talking. It's like having two TVs on.
some of us will be around after the meeting's finished. So certainly, it's just we haven't a lot of time for public questions. But please feel free to. So the question's effectively: has the council any plans to survey the level of noise within properties or near properties around there? Brilliant. Any other questions from the public? Okay. So I'll invite councillors to respond to public questions. Sorry, the last lady to speak. Could we just take your name? Thank you.
I'm asked for a meeting with Anna. I'm asked for a meeting, but it's not happening. We've phoned Stuart Thornton. I phoned Mike Jackson. I don't even know Joe Bird. Phoned her. I'm just desperate. No, but she's wrong on the sheet. I'm desperate.
So the clerks informed me, and it is on the agenda. We've actually got quotes which we're going to consider today for gates for the park. Okay. That will because we're discussing quotes and which quote to accept if the council's going to accept. That particular bit of discussion as to which gate and which quote is accepted, if it's accepted, will be in confidential session. But I think if councillors want to respond to the question, I think personally, oh sorry, Chris.
We still want to know regularly. I've got a book of times with numbers that we give you, incident numbers. They don't come out, it's usually the Friday, Saturday, obviously, leaving off there. But I've asked the Amy, Tuesday. They can't just do, we're being hacked all the time to someone else, you can go to anything. I still want to do really done what would you expect the council to do? I know the person. Really practical, what we are doing until yes, and then what would you expect us to look at it? I know I can't see personally. That's because you're not in my house. That's because you're not in my house. You can't see it.
Okay, ladies and gents, can we...
I think something like a police officer, or some kind of something that authority, not every day, like once every now and then, to walk that, the people on the side of here, don't make too much noise, don't make too much swearing. And I think somebody reinforcing that message on a regular basis would have an impact on reducing the noise and reducing the language.
I personally think it's the police. And when I don't have a job, yes, and well, the personally
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, the function of this part of the meeting, because we only have 20 minutes set aside. We only have 20 minutes set aside for questions. We only have, sorry ladies and gentlemen, but we can't enter into a two-way discussion at this point. I'm afraid it has to be question and answer. Yes, I will be available after the meeting. I'm sure some of my colleagues will be available after the meeting. So the two questions, we are actually out of time for the public session, which is 20 minutes. There are two questions that we haven't answered. Most of the questions relate to Lockwood and to noise at Lockwood and disturbances in the park. The other two questions are about allotments, which we haven't answered. Do we have any update on the allotment bins, Anna? Can you update on that one? So Stuart will give you an update on the allotments.
On the issue, I presume Mr. Pearson is referring to the composting bins.
That's right, yeah.
And is your question why they're not being built?
Yeah.
Right. We had an allotment meeting a couple of weeks ago, and this issue was brought up. I can't go into too much detail at the moment because I'm not speaking on behalf of the allotments. This issue was brought up, and the question was asked, why hasn't it been actioned? And after a short discussion, it boiled down to the fact that at present, our parish council workers are extremely busy during the grass cutting season, etc. Sorry, let me finish without interruption. What's up?
Can we not enter into a two-way discussion?
I'm trying to give you an explanation.
Councillor Thornton's giving an explanation.
Doesn't warrant mocking people.
I'm not mocking you, you said one parishioner asked me why they don't start. I'm not working to full capacity.
Right.
I'll just
Let me finish the
you're
explanation.
too busy.
Let me finish the explanation. So,
Yeah.
the explanation given was that the ground staff have been extremely busy of late. As a result of that, a further share consulting took place, and it's now going to be looked into by the senior administrator, and that's at the point we're at the moment.
So effectively, as soon as the council workmen have time, they'll start work on me, and that the clerk doesn't have any other information beyond that. Yeah, sorry. Siobhan's on holiday so the senior administrator's on holiday for 2 weeks, and then we'll report back, in fact, on the agenda time. I'm sorry, we haven't time. If you want to speak to someone, or if you want to write into the question, to the council with a question, please feel free to do that. The other question, which I will respond to very, very quickly, was about staff efficiency and the efficiency of the workforce. So actually, the staffing committee recently, and the minutes of the staffing committee will come before the council in due course, entered into a discussion as to how the staffing committee could look to increase workforce efficiency. And there are some recommendations that have been made there. They'll need to be explored by full council, but it is something that we're looking at. Thank you very much. And Councillor Thorne has some proposals. Thank you. Okay. Through the chairman, so item E is to allow ward members if present. Sorry? I've answered the question, so you asked about staffing efficiency. No. Which one was yours, sorry? We didn't refuse to answer the question. No councillor commented on it.
Right. This argument came up with yourself, Mr. Priest, at another meeting.
Gentlemen, can you hear the reply from...
Don't shout at me. If I got your name wrong, I apologise. That was a miss of me. It doesn't warrant good people shouting out in meetings. And that's on camera.
Okay, I'm going to end the session.
Can I just quickly explain about the charity in Woodland? I'm going to put this in front of the council because it needs more explanation. But the gist of it is the charity has to be a separate entity from the council for things for finance and for charity reasons. The charity comes under charity law, and the council obviously comes under Council Law like 1972 Act. They have to be separated. And for that reason, if somebody asks a question about charity land, it has to be dealt with by charity. And if somebody asks about items of the council, that's done by council. It's something we've got to do, whether we like it or not.
So what I'm saying is the question that we're asking would be about the stones to be referred straight away.
But it wasn't a specific question.
The question was asked under section B, which is to allow questions relating to the parish council recreation ground, which will be relayed to the charity. So there's a specific instruction on the agenda that the question will be relayed to the charity, not answered by the council in this meeting. I did give councillors the opportunity to comment. We will respond, but we'll respond in the charity meeting.
I'd just like to see council take Woodland as a whole.
Very quickly, does anyone have any questions for ward members? So we've got 2 ward members present.
I have a question. Can I have a question on that one? Yeah, if you go to temporary traffic lights, do some temporary traffic lights on Woolsett Road with the weekend. You were left in situ with nothing but holding up traffic for at least 6 hours. Is there anything that RMBC can do to make sure it won't happen to the police it in some way, shape or form? But when road work is finished, the temporary traffic lights are removed without any delay.
Clive, do you want to? Jonathan?
It happens regularly.
I think what I'll do is I'll just
speak to what's it called, people employed with contractors. I can't tell you myself now.
Yeah, I don't understand.
But it's just going to go and tell you.
Yeah.
It's really, uses the contractors that much, no.
Yeah, I think it was a contract, but they need permission from council to install these things. I've used them for over, so, they can do it for when they're not.
Can I just, it was the utility company that were doing the work, that was doing the work on Woodsets Road. They finished it Friday afternoon, I think. The traffic lights were still there Saturday, they were removed Sunday. What if you look at, well, I don't know if you don't see this, but there's a traffic delay report that's sent out every week by RMBC, and that gives a start and finish time for the works, and the works are due to finish today. So theoretically, we could have left the traffic lights in place all over the weekend if they had to come back and tidy up. But they were removed Sunday morning, I think, or maybe late Saturday. But you've asked me this on other occasions, Stephen, on areas where they've had them on Nursery Road and things like that. They employ a separate traffic management company that deals with these for utility companies. Even the Borough Council employs them when they're doing the highway resurfacing. So as soon as that work's finished, they should notify the traffic management system or company, to come and move their lights. They did move them over the weekend, and I said the work was due to finish today. They finished it early, so they've actually done it within the time that they were allocated. If it had run over after today, then they would have been liable to a fine, but I have contacted them before on this. So they are working better than they used to, but it's still something that, if it's finished on a Friday tea time, we'd expect it to be gone Friday night. But that's how it is. But I will take it with Andy Rowley at RMBC.
We have, yes.
About signage and gates, but that doesn't address about the dog feed system and everything. I'd like to know what you can do about that.
Thank you. So I'm afraid we've run over on the public session there. I'm allowed to run over very slightly because I think it's great that we have more members of the public here. Unfortunately, you obviously have some legitimate concerns about Lockwood, and the council will definitely try its best to address those. It is a little disappointing to see a persistent argument on other matters still existing between members of the public and councillors. So I'd be very grateful if those discussions could be taken outside the council meeting. So we'll enter the council meeting itself, receive apologies for absence. We don't have any apologies on record. Any other apologies? Item 2, to disclose members' DPI or personal interest for any item to be discussed. Stuart.
On the presumption that nobody else is going to declare an interest, could I have clarified the position? Later on tonight, we're going to discuss, so I'm going to recommend this in confidential session. We're going to discuss a contract with RMBC. So can I clarify the position whether RMBC councillors will have to declare an interest and leave the room?
Yeah, well, I'm going to declare an interest on that one anyway. Doesn't matter.
Okay, so we have an interest declared from Clive there. Any other RMBC councillors? John?
I've got the one for the allotments agreements, which is 10.3.
So, Jonathan, allotments, Clive, the RMBC, and the contractors, and the contracts as well. Great. Okay. Any other DPI, personal interests? No, thank you very much. Item 3, to identify items for which the press and public may be excluded. Colin and Stuart. Colin.
I propose that item 10.2, 10.3 and 10.8 could be confidential session for the contracts to be discussed.
Okay. 10.2, 10.3 and 10.7. So that's the installation of gates. So 10.2, the installation of gates and signs at Lockwood. C, which is the draft allotment agreement contract, and 10.7, which is the 10.8, sorry, Colin, which is the quote for the fireworks.
Let's move to 2.1, 10.17, which is the contract, because I want to speak on parts of the contract rather than the
Okay, so 10.17, which is
Can I
contract.
just go back on the allotments? I'm going to look towards Philip. Do you think we need to discuss this in confidential session? I'll tell you why I'm asking, because we've already discussed it at the allotments committee. But what I think the aim of tonight is, we're going to ask council to agree in principle, put it out to the allotments committee for consultation, and then bring it back to council to find approval.
There's nothing contentious.
There's nothing contentious, there's nothing, so we won't really be discussing it as such, it's just a review of principle to go out to public consultation. That's all right, yeah?
So we will withdraw
That's if everybody wants
from that proposal?
Everybody's happy with it.
Okay.
10.2 for public.
10.2 is, I would argue on that one.
Any other items for confidential session?
Because there's contractual information.
10.3.
Jonathan, was that a question or just a pen?
No.
Great. Okay, so we've got proposals to put 10.3, which is the allotment agreement. No, 10.3 is not going in. 10.2 is going in. 10.7?
No.
10.8 and 10.17.
Great. 10.8, 10.17, both are contracts and quotes.
Can I just ask, sorry,
And 10.2.
10.6, how deep are we going into that one? Because there's figures and quotes on that as well. Are you...
I think it's just for general discussion at this stage.
That's okay.
Okay, can I have a proposer and seconder for those? Clive and Stuart. All those in favour? Carried. So that is... So on to item 4, to confirm the minutes of the Parish Council meeting held on Wednesday the 6th of July. Can I take any questions there on page 1? Miles, is that hand? Or a sporting your head?
No, it's
Okay. Stuart.
Right, can I just draw everyone's attention to item 5816, which is the vote we had in open session of the last meeting to decide whether an issue was lawful or unlawful. Just for council information, I have challenged this legally. I've wrote to the chairman and the clerk to ask for further information because I don't believe that the parish council has the legal power to make a decision whether an item is lawful or unlawful. The parish council can only operate within the law.
So the clerk's confirmed that she's recorded the discussion as it occurred and the decision as it was made. We have sought further legal advice. So we've had the legal advice confirmed in writing. If councillors want to bring this back up for discussion, I think you'll have to put it on to another agenda. If you're asking us to seek further legal advice,
I would proceed without an impasse now because not only is there a question over the original resolution, there's now a question over the second resolution, and both need to be sorted in detail. And I've also raised a question about tonight about the issue to consider, to update, etc. And again, in that email I sent, it's going to, if it's true what we're saying, it's going to have a profound effect, not only on here, but in all the other councils in Yorkshire, because they're going to have to change the way they present their agendas. I do regard it as quite a serious issue, and we're getting ourselves into more and more of a mess. The legal advice we have, when did that come back? Or
it was a confirmation in writing of the legal advice that we've already had that the council's decision.
That was the legal advice that was put in front of us last meeting?
Yes.
It says absolutely nothing.
So,
Excuse me, would you ask Councillor Jonathan Ireland to come back to the table?
Councillor Ireland?
Sorry, Chairman, needed someone's email address.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Thornton's going to write to us because he disagrees with the sort of sentiment, I suppose, of or the decision itself. So I imagine that will come back as an agenda item for further discussion.
Can I ask, let's try and move forward, all right, without having, so, the main people that are arguing against this issue, or should we say the main people, or those involved in the council, is Councillor Hand and myself. Can I suggest that Councillor Ireland and myself, we both write to the clerk as individual councillors with our reasons of why not it's not lawful or lawful.
Can I?
Then, when we have a discussion, we ask the clerk to go back for legal advice. So the two sets of arguments are on the table. If they come back with the same legal advice they gave us, I'm not impressed with that at all. Because the first lot of legal advice was, should we say, sketchy, to say the least. What is the suggestion?
Thank you. Can I suggest that anyone that wants to write to myself and the clerk about this is obviously free to do so? Christine?
Could you just say right to me, please? Is York a body to give legal advice? And I was thought it was information. Is that right?
Okay,
Can I just like that, as a York representative, and I've got more, I'll take speech later on. One of the reasons we're members of the Yorkshire Local Council Association, part of the membership fee we pay allows us to go to them to ask for advice on council matters. Where they think it's a legal issue, they will seek legal advice from a legal company. And and don't quote me on this, I'm just trying to help it. If they don't believe that they can't sort it out at the Yorkshire level, they will also then seek further advice from the national councils in London, and they have their own legal team there. So you would expect the legal advice to be coming back to be probably a bit better than what we're seeing.
Thank you. John, sorry. John. We've had the advice in writing. The clerk's opinion, and bearing in mind the clerk in our case is legally qualified, advises us that the legal advice that we've received won't change. So it is a matter, we're discussing these minutes for accuracy, and they are obviously accurate. This is going to be a debate that we need to have at another time. Can I take Jonathan and then Darren?
Well, I'll withdraw my question. If we're going to discuss it another time.
Just a really quick one that I've no need to write to the clerk because the decision has been made democratically by majority vote. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the end of the matter.
So you're not willing, you're not willing then to try and enter into a fair...
We've had the legal advice though, Stuart.
We've had the democratic discussion and vote.
So the point I'm raising now is it's all right Councillor Ireland saying the decision's been made, but I'm actually challenging that decision because I believe that decision was totally unlawful.
In that case, it needs to go on the agenda.
Yeah, I'll put it on the agenda. I'm trying to discuss it. It just proves it's not willing to argue.
Okay. Any other questions about page 1? Page 2. Okay. Can I have a proposer and seconder for the accuracy of those minutes? So Clive and Jonathan. All those in favour? There we go. Item 6 to consider grants. We don't have any listed on the agenda. We don't have any in.
Do we have anything on the horizon about the meeting of the grants committee? I want to say that have we got the outstanding grants that we need to make decisions on?
Yes.
Yes. We also have, so I've asked the clerk to add to the next agenda the Anston Day grants. So we've got the Anston Day are currently being charged for facilities and grounds hire. Whether it's something that we wish to consider, but that has to go back onto the agenda in the appropriate place. Yeah, that's where it's going.
Sorry, the question of the Anston Day, if they want to use the hall, they want to go into the charity. Because they're asking to use the charity facilities.
We give the hall hire grants here. That's been a constant question of mine. Why do we do it at this council when it's a charity property?
We could do it either way.
Well, first of all, my opinion needs to go to the charity, because the charity then would hand it back to the councils, because the council makes the grants.
It could actually be done
This is what
either way.
This is what I said before, the question to answer to Mr. Cabinet. Although it seems quite silly what we do, the charity and the council have to be treated totally separate, and it's a pain, but that's what has to happen. You know, in effect, you've got to take this hat off here and put this hat back on, because of the way the system's set up. I know it's a pain, but maybe we need clarification.
Alternatively, the council could pay the charity a bit more.
It could theoretically be done either way by the charity or the council, but it's not on today's agenda, so it may as well be sent to the charity meeting. So just to give you an update, Stuart, the grants committee met. It wasn't quorate. As a separate agenda item, I've raised the policy, which is the policy that's been before the council and the old grants working group several times. So shall we discuss grants when we get to that item in the agenda? Thank you. Yep. Okay. Item 7, to consider planning and licensing transport issues and to receive reports. So we've got planning list, list 27, none for Anston, but there is one that relates to Woodsetts. List 28, none for Anston, but we did receive by email some information from Anna. Any comments on those two applications?
Can I just ask quickly, what was the one that relates to Woodsetts?
Yeah. RB 2016 0782. Yeah. Any comments on any of those?
The ones are this is one that's come through today.
Any other comments from councillors? Should we leave those to neighbours and planners?
Yeah.
Can I have proposer and seconder? Clive and Darren, all those in favour? Item 8, to authorise sealing of documents for rights of burial for the burial ground. Do we have any, Anna? We don't have any, which is always a good sign. So, in that case, we are on to item 9, to consider matters from previous meetings. So we've got 9.1, Councillor Smith to provide an update regarding the fence erected on the SSI.
Well, we know further down the line with that. But having spoken to Colin tonight, who suggested that we get, bear with me to just pass it over to me. The big problem is, does the landowner have the right to fence off a SSI site whilst the footpath continues beyond the fence? I think simple answer is no, but like Colin's pointed out, we need to actually find out from RMBC, I believe. If you can just bear with me a second.
interrupt?
No, just bear with me 1 second, because
Just I'm mindful of confidential nature, that's what I'm mindful of.
Right, okay, no problem. I'm trying to find the bit what Collins gave me, just bear with me. Yeah, this is it, sorry. The safest, how do I know whether a path is a public right of way or not? The safest evidence is the official definitive map of public rights of way, and what was suggested is that we need to get hold of these and install for that particular area, unless anybody on council who's been here, you know, a long time, knows the answer to the question.
The definitive map, I don't think it's not one that's given out or such, but that's the law.
Yes.
So if it shows on the definitive map, it means that's a public practice. Can I suggest a way forward? I think we need to have this on the agenda.
Absolutely.
To go into confidential session, because it could be potentially
Yeah.
a thing.
I want to...
I think of a way forward we need to discuss to start something going. I don't want to go into too much, but we've got to start from a point to start to resolve the issues either way. I've got it in my mind what we need to do. We have to discuss it in confidential session.
No, we can do that.
There is I think we've had, just before Anna joined, before most of them joined, we've had other sorts of definitive maps for certain areas we've adopted. Recently, that's when we put that sort of, if you remember, that MBC have adopted, and we've been quite lucky that take them over because they're maintained. And we have had certain ones that have shown in areas, but I don't think we've ever had one for down there, so the guy needs to make sure it's on effect. RMBC, and asking if you can let us have a definitive map or answer in stone. I think the problem we've got down there is that lands that we've got are not that accurate because they're not on large scale, they're only small, and it shows the coloured line out it, and that's it.
Well, it's actually all we need really, because we know what the issue is, and
it's where that is. What I'm saying is the maps that I've seen, we've also had a big red, but perimeter around, so you're not quite sure where in that red line the actual line is. So if you get that definitive map, it shows it. This is why we probably need something else from the board. I don't know if they've got in their archives that actually shows you the perimeter of the line. But again, I've seen plans of that, and it's not that accurate. It might be accurate, but it's not that distinctive, so you can actually see, I can see a boundary line, there's no sort of an OS map. So you can't pick that up.
Should we just leave it that we get the maps and we'll take a look at it? Pardon me.
Would we have the leads from the Duke of Leeds?
I don't think so, because we took the offer from RMBC, so we should have a copy. I think there's lots of stuff there in that, but I think there's much information we get from RMBC, from their last section, which can help Darren when he's coming.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got the land register map, we've got everything else we need bar this last piece of the jigsaw to make a decision on what the way forward is.
So, in summary for that one, Clark to contact RMBC and to see if we've got a copy of the deeds from the Duke of Leeds. Philip?
Yes, please.
Without wishing to stir the pot, I'll say this and say nothing else. We've just decided upon a course of action on an agenda item which says to provide an update.
We haven't moved a resolution. We've just given an update.
Agreed a course of action, basically.
Yeah. We've agreed that Anna will investigate. We haven't.
I'm saying nothing more.
Yes.
We haven't formally resolved.
No.
So we've just said, do we have a copy of the deeds in the office? Can we ask RMBC for a copy? If we want to be very strict.
It's common sense.
If you want me to do that, I'll do it outside of the meeting.
No, he's making a point.
Well, it's going to cause a problem.
Yeah. Well, better be careful on the next one then.
That just shows where we are.
We do have to be mindful of how things appear on the agenda.
Yeah.
John? I was going to say that if you go to the planning department, they'll have the initial outline, and that's from when it first was established.
Yeah, so that's what Anna's.
We'll be able to get that.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, and 9.2.
Well, Crowgate, I mentioned at the last meeting that we'd remove it from the agenda because for legal reasons, we just can't go any further with it. I don't really see the point in having it on the agenda. There's bigger things happening. Or
Are
not.
you happy to?
I'm happy to remove it from the agenda, maybe to withdraw it, because I don't see the point.
Thank you very much.
And an update on Springfield, they've actually been out today to do work from the Forestry Commission, dredging the back, and it's not here now, but there were some local, there were a few of us down there today, a couple of local residents helped, and they've got the water flowing at the back of Springfield. There's a lot more work to do. They're going to put a maintenance schedule, and I said, when you have the maintenance schedule, we just email it across to myself, and then I'll pass it on to the council.
Right. If I remember rightly, part of the issue was, if I'm right in thinking that, the Forestry Commission are indicating they may not be doing it in the future.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. So why would they want to be able to today do it? That's just a thought.
Well, because they've still obviously contracted to. They've actually done part of it, Stuart, early in the year. So they're actually really only finishing something up. Yeah, they can. That's what she actually said today. We have to finish this off because they've already started the project. But they actually don't know until September where they stand. They could actually be reassigned it again. But it's all up in the air. So.
Do we know the reason why they're indicating, trying to be careful, indicating why they're not going to do it? Is it are they pulling out from that piece of land altogether?
They're not pulling out. It's they've had a. Well, I think Clive knows more about it than I do. They've had a contract to sell, 10-year contract to look after a lot of the old pit tops and you know.
No, really, because I can't remember exactly what was happening at the time, but there was one or two questions raised why the Forestry Commission was taking over that particular part of the pit top anyway.
But they've taken over a lot of the pit tops, haven't they, in the area? But they're actually going to put the engineers are going in next week to see what. Now they've done the basic dragging, you know, got rid of a lot of the reeds, etc. They're going to send the engineers in next week, see if there's anything further needs doing, putting machines in for dredging, etc. They want. It's basically been a lack of maintenance. It always is, isn't it? So.
Can I just ask, obviously, you're saying the know at the moment, if you can keep the council informed, because again, I've no doubt if there's going to be, as you say, maybe bigger things from the Forestry Commission, they're going to relinquish certain, as you say, duties. Well, that may affect other things like the SK58 birders, because they're quite involved with there. There's obviously a pond up there, and you mentioned about pooling of water and pit types and rather than. So I think it's something you can keep.
Well, when it comes through, like I said earlier, I'll just forward it on, and then everybody's got it.
Thanks, Darren.
Yeah.
Well, you want to thank them guys who were ripping it all out today.
Great. Thank you very much, Darren. Okay. So on to item 10. We haven't got any matters other than to thank everyone that helped out with Councillor, particularly to thank Councillor Sadler for organising the talk last week from the archaeological team from Durham. It was really good to see so many people there. And as I've said to Chris in an email today, we had an email of thanks from Anston Greenland School, which we'll pass on. Stuart.
Can I just say again, well done. That's probably one of the. I'm talking particularly about the Wednesday night one. That's probably one of the biggest turnouts we've had from the Anston community for something that the parish council has done for years, and it should be congratulated, and maybe we need to start looking at more stuff.
It's interesting to note that actually at that meeting 2 people approached me and they were just members of the public and said we'd like to help out, we'd like to volunteer. So they've been put in touch with Siobhan, and hopefully they'll get in touch. Because in the past we've got a bit of a track record, although it was the period of transition from the last council, we've got a track record of saying very nice, but then not actually getting people helping out on things. So it's really good to see lots of people.
Interesting.
Okay. So, item 10.1,
No,
to consider protection order regarding dogs on play areas. Councillor Matthews.
Well, this is something we agreed at the last meeting to use as a last resort, shall we say, a card to play as a last resort. And it stays that way, although I haven't heard what some of the public has said tonight. It gets nearer and nearer as an option, I think. It's especially relevant that you need authorised and non-uniformed enforcers when issuing one of these orders. If that falls in with the other parish job, then yeah. But it is there as an option. It's, as I say, normally the last resort. Still not sure whether we can do it or whether it's got to go through the borough. A local authority is authorised to do it. Are we a local authority, a civil local authority?
We're a local authority.
Well, then we should be able to issue.
If I just comment on that, if that pilot project works, that person only works in this area, you're not called on anywhere else in the borough, so you've got like a dedicated, might only part-time, or whatever, but they're in this area, you're not working anywhere else, you're not going to call a dog warden from Romarsh or wherever, because we've only got two in the borough.
Sure.
So there's better bit on the ground. So if you've got somebody that's got those enforcement powers, somewhere like a player, this is an ideal thing, because Wales have got massive local, they've all got the same problem. If they're available in this area, it's only a short notice if they're Wales and ring and say we've got a problem with that, or they can do it unannounced, so they can call as and when. It's not somebody's down here thinks, well, here's dog board is the other side of the road, and they've got to do whatever, no, they don't know, because that person varies their control. The idea was that it's not a set pattern, which is what we sometimes get from traffic officers. You get more digging from Main Street, you know exactly which area means and what time. So this is fairly easy to judge if you want to do so. This is nobody would know whether you work from my rotation, if you move around or whatever. So that was one of the ideas behind that question.
Thanks, Christine.
Can I just point out that the dog wardens themselves have trouble with enforcement? How do you propose a volunteer warden to enforce it? I'll tell you now, it won't work.
They'd have the powers to do it.
You've got to try it though, Christine, surely.
So what would you do? Tell me the steps you would take. Would you say to the dog owner, you have fouled, I'm going to fine you?
Yes.
Give me your name and address.
If you've got the enforcement powers and you've got the uniform on, you can do it.
No, the dog warden can't.
I'm not about the dog warden, I'm on about this protection.
Whether it's the dog warden who's paid to do the job, or a volunteer who's not paid to do the job, they ask the dog walker for their name and address. And what does the dog walker say? Well, in effect, it says get lost, so we can't issue the fine.
Well, that's one of the things that take a photograph.
Yeah.
Take a photograph.
Blind eyes to do that.
You can't.
Can we take Stuart and then Darren?
So is the answer, sorry, apologies.
I understand fully what you're saying.
That's not foul, and it's not a mess.
Sorry, can't speak while I'm speaking.
Christine.
I understand what you're saying. There's actually rules and regulations in law that these people can use. What would happen in that circumstance is you can't force nobody to give you name. That person, I don't know, but that person may have the powers to call the police who can make you give you name. Or the other option would be you take a photograph, and if the person maybe did it again, you take a second photograph, and then you would probably use other means, I don't know what, to find out the person is. That's what I'm saying is, there is a question of how enforceable is it. But if we appoint the right, should we say, person through the right system, through the right means, I do believe they have powers in law to find them.
Darren and then back to Chris.
Private land's a different matter.
Sorry, Chris. Darren and then back to you. Darren first, then you, Chris.
Well, it's directed at Christine, to be honest, because I'd like to know what your solution to it is. We can't ignore it.
I just wanted to be aware that if you volunteer to be a dog warden, just because the Borough Council tell you have powers, I just want you to be aware that the dog wardens can't do it. So how can we do it? I would volunteer if I thought it would work.
Don't you think if we have a warden though, that people will become aware that we've got one and will start the threat might alleviate the problem, the fact that you've got a dog warden. Do you think people? I don't believe that. I think if there's signage up, you've suggested signage. I think a combination of signage, warden. We have to do something. We can't just keep ignoring it.
I just wanted to be aware of it.
I appreciate what you're saying.
Stuart. Can I just come in? Just try and move things forward. Right. I think the general consensus on the council is yes, we have a problem with dog power, etc. One of the options that Philip's brought up tonight is is a protection order. That's an option. Could I suggest that in light of that we've just been informed tonight there's a project going on that we knew nothing about, could I suggest that we see what information is going to be forthcoming on that? Because there obviously seems to be some strategy evolving for Rotherham. The issue whether they're passing on to us is a different matter. Could I suggest that we wait to see what comes forward from RMDC and then bring it back to the table to discuss whether we go down that particular route or go down our own particular route? Is that a way forward? Is that something we can move forward?
Well, yes, but I think this is the same project that was mentioned in March, and Paul Griffiths has left. This young woman has taken it on, she's been appointed. I think it's the same thing. And the fact that she doesn't know anything about £350 training fee, and it explains to me that because it's Rotherham Borough Council, I am automatically suspect.
Why don't you give them the chance to send the information?
Miles and then Clive.
I was just going to ask at the moment, it isn't cost us anything at the moment. I think it's important we're involved in the decision making and involved in the idea so far. So I think it's important that we get someone from this council in that group. I just think, how can we do that? Does it have to wait until the next meeting until we can do it? Because they're going to have one in between, did you say, Clive?
No.
Can I just sorry, but I've brought this back to council before now. It was multiple parish and town council, I think last year. Perhaps people didn't listen or whatever. It's been on the agenda. It was discussed, I think, in March when I was here. Basically, I really didn't have anything to do with it. Well, what happened was Paul Griffiths was looking, one of the options was to try and get people from the different parishes to become sort of volunteers of that and to have this training by, I think it's a national body, I don't know, it's whatever, I'm not sure which it's a national body, but they would do training, but it worked out about £300 and something per person, which is what Christine said. We thought that was extremely expensive. So what it's moved on to is to look to, as I said, set a person on with part-time or full-time to cover an area, and that's where we are now. Janice is trying to progress this like 4 weeks. So the initial idea was to train people up. But the point that we made was, if you're trained up and you walk around Amsterdam and everybody that you try and stop, dogs or whatever, knows you, or threatens you, they know where you live, it's a big disadvantage to push off. Nobody would look at that, which is why we moved on to employing somebody from outside the area who can come in, do it independently, but they've got all the enforcement powers conferred on by the Borough Council. And that's how it's evolved for that, from people being put at risk possibly to somebody, take your name and address, etc. You don't want that. Nobody's going to take that on certain elements. So we've moved on to try another solution, which is to set somebody on to do that work within Cultus car parking and stuff like that, verges, outside schools, anything like that, where we could issue fines, and then it becomes a viable option. As I said, it's self-funding, but we need to try that pilot scheme and see how it works. So it has been brought back, but like Christine said, it was kicked into the wrong place in March, I think, when I was here, so that's where we are.
Are we, I was just thinking aloud here, shall we put it on the agenda once we've got information from the pilot schemes? The lady came to talk to us today, but if we get the information exactly what the pilot scheme consists of, then we can make a decision as to whether we want to be part of it, whether we want to try it out and see if it works.
Maybe that we say enhance.
Yeah, I mean,
When we go back to that meeting, can you emphasise that meetings? It may well be all well having a parish or meeting to discuss parish issues, but the information is not coming down to parish councillors in a timely manner.
well, it's, the trouble has been, that, there's been, since that's been February, nobody was going to back on the rest of the calendar. We've had a meeting since then, while we're trying to push.
When we used to be all the information, we just
Sorry, Miles?
Can I ask, with Phil's permission as well, that we bring it back and discuss that at the same time we discuss the new group meeting as well? If that's
Discuss what, sorry?
Discuss what the lady talked about from the area assembly. So it comes back to the next meeting. Just in case it doesn't follow through and the council disagrees, we can still fall back on what Phil's put onto the agenda.
The idea is to wait till the lady gives us more information and then we will come back on to discuss it as a whole.
Okay, yeah, that's what I mean, sorry.
That's the,
yeah, sorry.
that's
I
the
agree
agenda,
with you, sorry.
that's the agenda item as it stands, yes, so that will go back onto the agenda. Just because it says on here to consider the protection order, Philip, do you want us to vote on a protection order at this stage?
No.
No, but to hold that in reserve if the signage and the and the proposal from the lady that was here, if that doesn't work, then to consider establishing a protection order. Okay. The advice that we had was that we could vote on consider, but not to receive or discuss on a to receive. So item 10.2, which is to approve installation of gate and signs at Lockwood, has gone into confidential session. So that's because we're considering quotes for the signs and the gates installation. So that will go to later on in the meeting. It's one gate, isn't it, at the moment?
I was under the assumption there was two gates being proposed.
That's for the council to discuss today. So we will discuss whether we want one or two gates. No, I don't.
Have a walk round the park with me, because you're making a decision under no knowledge whatsoever.
Councillors have. I know that some councillors have actually been to have a look at it.
You need to come to my house.
And we've had the environmental health team
Yeah.
out actually to survey the noise as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think we've had that report back as well. So I don't want to enter into too much of a discussion, but I think I don't want to preempt the decision of the council, but I think we are generally minded to do something about the noise. That will go into confidential sessions.
If we've had the environmental people who made that decision, was all right. The other thing is, why, if we're going to discuss it tonight, why haven't we seen a copy of that report? We can't sit and make decisions on reports that are put in front of us in two minutes. With all due respect, we should have seen that report in the pack so we consider what it says and what it doesn't say.
I haven't personally seen a copy of the.
That's what I'm saying. I haven't. It's like, I'm not to make snap decisions on documents that's put in front of me at a meeting. Well, have we got it tonight?
So, pardon me.
Okay, so it wasn't something that could easily be transmitted to us, yeah, because it's recordings and noise levels.
Can I just say, before we put out a confidential session, obviously this is Haywood. I've spoken to Mr. Haywood, I've spoken twice, and I just want to, because it's involving costs and finance, we're going to have to discuss things in confidential session. But can I just assure you that I did listen deeply to what you said. I hope I put things across as equal as I could. All right, you're shaking your head. I can only do what I can do.
No, you come to my house and then make a decision.
Right.
Until you've lived in my house, you cannot make any decisions whatsoever.
I understand. I'm trying to help. What I'm trying to say is, because we're going to have to go into confidential session, well, I was going to say, I was wanting to assure you that I've listened to what I said, and I will try and emphasise your point to the other councillors who not rang. Have you rang all the other councillors?
Pardon?
Have you rang the other councillors?
I've spoken to Clyde Jackson.
Yeah.
I've spoken to, he's spoken to you.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, I just want to reassure you that if we discuss in confidential session, I was going to assure you that I will try my best to put your point of view across. I do believe it's seriously affecting your life.
Yeah, terribly.
Let me finish this. I'm under an illusion that, but it's like I said to your husband as well, is there are wider concerns we have to look into and discuss. What I'm saying to you at the moment is, I will put your point of view across of what came over from yourselves to myself.
Sorry, I don't think that I've been across to your house to the other day. And I tried to say, the primary objective of the council was to stay secure and peaceful existence of its residents. I thought that was the primary objective, and nothing else could override that. Recreational facilities, great, fantastic, but they cannot interfere with peace.
I'm sorry, ladies and gents, we don't have a session in the agenda to enter into a discussion here. We definitely have taken your concerns on board. Most of us aren't career politicians. We're members of the public looking to serve the local community. So we've only just, this has only just appeared. So until 2 weeks ago, I didn't know anything about noise at Lockwood.
That came to a meeting in March with Chichester and some police. That was, and because it first started, I reported it in November.
And the parish council knew nothing of that.
Well, wait for that meeting.
Well, I didn't.
Well, I certainly didn't.
It was nice meeting apparently, and you were all to us.
Nothing about it whatsoever.
None of us.
Know about it.
How about it? Did you inform the borough council rather than the parish council?
Yes, yes, we did, because obviously we have never had anything to do with the borough council or the parish council.
Okay, so we're two separate, we're sort of two completely separate councils.
We didn't know, so we went to anybody we could.
The first thing we heard about it was very, very recently, so rest assured, we didn't know about it back in March.
And I don't know whether she's here or not, but is that possibly because it doesn't get past Siobhan?
Well, it should have.
I have phoned Siobhan, I've lost count how many times.
Can I just assure that Siobhan has been getting quotes associated
No, you
with...
know what? I phoned Wales Parish Council to get the contact for the people who put their gates up. I've got emails, you can have a look. And I forwarded them to Siobhan because she was sat there waiting for an email back, and I phoned him.
There's no reason why it should be in private session. There's nobody in this room going to benefit from that contract. There's nobody in this room talking to it. So these people then can hear everything.
It's a contractual matter.
There is nobody in this room going to benefit.
We've discussed it here.
Look, I want to speak to people at the end.
You're not getting any more, right?
Thank you very much. We can't enter into discussion, so we will be available at the end. Right.
Should it be?
Item 10.3. So 10.3. To consider the draft allotment agreement from the senior administrator. Any comments?
Can I just come in with an explanation? When I go for it, I've got a copy with me. I think everybody's seen a copy of the draft agreement. We've had to look at a different way of drafting the agreement for the allotment contract, as it were, due to an incident that happened with the previous council, whether the death of one of the allotment holders. Allotments meeting probably about 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And did they say a copy of that to you? They did say a copy of that, didn't they? Right, we're not sure whether this
I don't think they did actually, I don't think she bought past it around.
Right, what we agreed at that meeting is that it just so happened the next night it was on the agenda for this meeting, which we never got to. And what we were going to suggest at that meeting, and we're suggesting we do it again today, is we were going to agree the draft allotment agreement in principle, subject to consultation with some members of the allotment group, so they can have input, because they're obviously experts in their field as well on the allotment law, etc. So they can have input to come back to us to see if there's anything we've missed glaring in this, and then we will go back to the next allotment meeting, and then once everybody's agreed there, we bring it back to full council for full approval. So we can either agree to approve it in principle, or we can just leave it as it is and bring it back for a future day.
Well, I would agree in
Just
principle.
to ask you, I know last year it was about the death, wasn't it? We had an issue.
It wasn't what?
About someone leaving it, well, one family thinking they had rights to own it after a death, wasn't it? One of those lines. So just,
Yes, it was more complicated.
I know, but just in the termination
Let's
thing,
not overcomplicate, it's only an allotment, with all
in-
greatest respect.
but we all got sued.
There was a number of issues
Well, we
that
shouldn't do.
we shouldn't possibly have done as a council.
Yeah.
And that's the idea now of revamping the allotment agreement. There was a possibility we opened ourselves up possibly for something to do with the law. Nothing,
Yeah.
it's just that we could be challenged on something.
But that's been tweaked in the termination consequences.
That's
isn't
been
it?
updated in the new agreement.
That's fine.
Can we not
How's
accept it then?
Fun?
It's
Can we
not,
not
We
accept
can,
it?
if we can.
this we said we put it out to the people so they can have a quick look and agree it.
Yeah.
It's not confidential as such because everybody's going to have to sign it eventually.
Yeah, yeah.
Get one.
Are we happy to, sorry, Colin.
Can I propose that we accept the draft agreement in principle, subject to further discussion with the allotment holders?
Yeah, second.
So to approve, you're seconding that to approve the agreement in principle, subject to it being accepted by the allotment holders. And if anything else comes back up from that consultation, then we'll consider it again, but otherwise. Okay, so we've got a proposer and a seconder there. All those in favour? That's carried. So that's approved. Item 10.4, which is Colin.
Yeah, we're looking to try to get this to 10 minutes.
Ready?
There's a lot of tension about cycling on footpaths. Now, I have an email here from Robert Borough Council, and also a copy of the Public Rights Aware. And he says quite clearly, pedal cyclists have no right to use footpaths. You can push it, like you can push it across the zebra crossing. You cannot ride a bicycle on a public footpath. Groups of cyclists tend to get together, and I used to be a cyclist. You have a meeting, you see a track, or a footpath, right, we'll lie down there, we'll lie for the pier. You cannot cycle on a public footpath. And I know it's unfortunate, and I know people think it's unfair, but we also have a responsibility for the integrity of our footpaths, and particularly the footpaths going from stones. Now, some people will take the view, particularly cyclists, that 10 or 12 cyclists riding through Anson Stone doesn't do all that damage. In this weather, it probably doesn't. In wet weather, it will cause some damage, and particularly if you're a little bit over exuberant and start skidding and drifting. And Natural England actually say they do not regard cycling per se as damaging to the triple SI, but they would regard an organised group as something they would wish to have knowledge. Now, I don't know whether 12 or 20 is an organised group. That's for me for them to decide. We have limited power when it comes to the triple SI, mainly of responsibility. We're not responsible for the upkeep of the footpaths. We are not responsible for weeds and trees over the footpath. We're only responsible for putting them back where they are. We have you have my sympathy. But the law, these are my rules and some parish council rules. The law is, you must not cycle on a public. That's all I want to say.
I can't agree with Colin, unfortunately. This wasn't prompted by any complaint about cycling. It was a report of an incident where somebody unfortunately got injured, and I think the only sort of contentious item that the reporter mentioned was the fact that there was no access by ambulance, by an easy access, easy access by ambulance. I don't see any reason why we need to stop anybody cycling. It's been going.
I emailed, well, I do remember, I researched this, I looked at the public rights of way, and the...
Colin, I take all that, I agree with what you're saying.
What they said, it just says pedal cyclists have no right to use footpaths.
Yeah, we know, I think that's known by everybody, but you're never going to stop it. There's no way of enforcing it. We've got one police officer, haven't we, that's covering 5 parishes or whatever, you know. They're not going to take any notice of it if we report it to the police, you know. It's not there.
I'll take Clive and then Chris.
I think we should just forget it and let things go as they were, to be honest.
Well,
Me too.
yeah, I mean, I think from what Philip said, the trouble was the guy that came off the bike was off the beaten track. Now that's the problem I have, because if you stray off the beaten track, you don't know what damage you're doing to anything that's in that triple SI. If you stop on the beaten track, then there's a fair, and by that I mean the main tracks through, etc. We take it down to Lindsay Dale. If you stop on that, within the confines of that path, then fair comment. But if you start straying off that and decide to go your own little rambling ways up and down hills and all over the place, then yes, you're falling foul of natural England. We're falling foul of natural England, because if that's happening, we need to let them know. They're the body that administers these nationally, and they're the ones that can impose any fines or anybody damaging that. So if somebody say damages a rare wildflower or something like that, and they found to have done it, then they will be prosecuted, or at least I would hope they would. Now I don't have a problem with people cycling through there. I did it 50 odd years since down Anston Stones. The paths weren't as good then, they were terrible. In fact, you used to break your wheels on your bikes and get punctures. They were that shocking. Now they're a lot better now, but I do have an issue with 20 people cycling through it at a time. If they're in groups, smaller groups, then I don't have a problem with that. But I think 20 is a large number. If you're happen to be going under one of those bridges and 20 cyclists come through at the same time, then it could be a bit of a problem. So I don't know how we solve this, but I do know that we're responsible for the maintenance of it at the end of the day. We spend money maintaining. Well, again, I'm not so sure about this footpath, because I seem to remember we spent quite a lot of money putting limestone down there, and Mr. Campbell will probably back me up on this, on some of the paths around Anston Stones over the years, on the Anston Stones management group. And we've paid for that work to be done to maintain those. Sorry? Well, I know the Borough Council maintains some of the steps and the handrails and things like that in some of them, but I don't think that they're responsible for that entire cycle or footpath through Anston Stones down to Lindsay Dale.
Excuse me, Clive. The service of the path, for most purposes, is considered to belong to the Highway Authority, and the Highway Authority is RMBC.
Well, RMBC, I think what you need to find out, and you perhaps need to go back to Michael on this, because he can probably give you chapter and verse, but attending those meetings, I know that we've authorised work some of those paths when they've got the limestones washed away, we've had them redone, and I mean the big paths, top and bottom, that are rights of way, we've maintained those. RMBC have done what they've had to do, where we've got the wooden sleepers, you know, where these footsteps go down there. That's their responsibility in certain areas, but it's always been, we'll do this, and they do that, and as I said, I think Mr. Cameron can back me up on this, because we've had to gain access to get limestone down there by all sorts of means, from a lorry to a tipper truck to take it down there and spread it. But we, by and large, have maintained those. RMBC have not maintained that main public route through the stones, ever to my knowledge. They'll do some, but they certainly don't that. They'll not take on what they don't have to do. So I'm at odds with them on that one. Where we go the rest of it, I don't know. But I would like to see people being, you know, we've had people come down here last week to that talk on the archaeological dig, saying what a fantastic place Anston Stones is, etc., etc. We've had people commenting on it on blogs, and it's a great asset, but it's not going to be a great asset if people abuse it. And that's where my point is. We're only limited in what we can do. We rely on people's good grace and sense not to damage that area.
I don't think we can enforce all cycling, but I would like to think people would be sensible and not go hurting through there and off track and damaging things and damaging themselves. You know, if we don't want spare accidents where we've got air ambulance coming in and God knows what else going on, trying to get people extricated from this stuff. Take it nice and steady, we've got no problem. So it's a fine balance. We need to keep it open, but sorry, Joe.
Can I take Christine and Stuart and Miles?
What we've got to do.
Now you've talked it to death.
Yeah, well, it's my turn.
And it's just the same as it was. I mean, everybody knows the shoe line. The situation is still the same. The person who came off the bike that made no complaint, the group said it was dealt with. The people travelling down the stones for donkeys years, those paths are still the same as they were when I came to live in Amston 45 years ago, and I don't see any problem, and I don't know why you're making.
You've obviously not listened to what I've said, Chris.
I am.
What I've said.
I don't know what you're on about.
He did it off.
Stop
He did it off path. You're not listening. He wasn't on the normal path when he did it.
He was on the path, and I'm sure.
Well, I think if you read through it, he was going down an incline or whatever. Now, if you stick to the path, there's no inclines really there.
There is inclines.
Where?
Going down to the bridge for a start.
Well, I think I'd like to know where he came off, because I dare bet any money he wasn't on the footpath when he came off.
Stuart.
What's the relevance?
We have talked,
That's like around here.
we have talked about this quite a lot. Let's just try and put it to bed and deal with it. There are public footpaths that run through the Stones Wood. It is the law, you're not allowed to cycle on public footpaths. I've said it before as well, is anybody who cycles and gains entrance through, should we say, official ways into the Stones Wood, they're actually jumping steel gates or they're jumping A-frames, which are designed to keep cyclists out.
You don't just tilt your bike up.
It's the law, let me finish, right? Finish talking before you talk, right? The law says you can't cycle on footpaths where a footpath pass through the stones. There's A-frames and steel gates there to stop cyclists going in. Somebody's mentioned tonight there wasn't a complaint, and I think we've talked it through quite a lot. Maybe we should just leave it at that point.
Miles.
Yeah. Again, just to kind of
yeah,
what
Miles,
Stuart said, then just accept what Colin said. It is the law, and I propose that we accept what he said, and due to its unenforceability, that we just carry on as things are.
That's a proposal.
That's a proposal.
So the legal advice that we receive
Yes
is,
or no,
that
it's considered.
is that we can make
Yes or no.
proposals under consider.
I'm just second.
Can I have the wording of your proposal, Miles?
That we accept what Colin said as law, but due to its unenforceability, well, that's all I tell me.
We
can't
ignore it.
Accept what Colin says because it's the law.
It's the law. We have to. Because it is
The advice from Natalink is
it's
the
quite hard
advice.
to do anything about it, isn't it? So it's like, but again, how do you enforce that unless you have someone there with a stick?
You can't enforce it.
That's not fun.
You can't. No, but you can enforce that as much as you can with dogs.
We have to accept it because it is law. We are a parish council. But again, unenforceable.
So the advice that we got from Natural England is that each to the SSSI, for the benefit of those who haven't been before, is a site of special scientific interest. So the Anston Stones are a site of special scientific interest with some very, very unique features which are protected. But the advice from Natural England that we have is that in the case of cycling in Anston Stones Wood is not specifically listed as an activity that's likely to damage the features within the SSSI.
There we go. So it's unenforceable anyway. So we accept.
There you go.
But an organised biking event, a big biking
Yeah, but
rally,
we're not having organised
would be something that they would need
Maybe two of a few and far between.
There's been one, and somebody fell off. Yeah. It's some guys on a Sunday morning.
So we have a proposal to receive Colin's
Yes.
statement, and that's been seconded.
By himself.
All those in favour of receiving Colin's statement? Okay, thank you very much, that's carried.
Oh no.
I don't think
agree
you are.
with-
I don't think you are, Colin.
Okay, so we're on to item 10.5.
which is the grants policy. So as a bit of background from Stuart's question earlier on, this is the policy that the grants working group produced and that I drafted. It's been before the council before. A couple of minor amendments were made to it. Then we had a brief break whilst we turned working groups into committees. The grants committee was called, but it wasn't quorate when it met. So the changes that have been made to it are the ones that the council recommended. So it is the same policy that was tabled before. I would like to propose that we approve it subject to consultation. If people feel that they need a little bit longer to look at it, to discuss. We said when we produced it as a grants working group that we would invite people who had applied for grants in recent years to comment on it.
No, you're not.
To comment.
Right, does it say to approve? So I'll second your proposal.
So we have a.
Can I just, if you go to consultation, how long is that? By the time you get that.
Sorry, Clive, can you speak up?
Sorry, I was just querying, if we go to consultation, how long is that going to go for, or run for? Because we need to get this approved, because otherwise we're going to have a backlog of applications by the end of the year. We're still waiting consultations from half a dozen village groups. By December, it's not going to work.
What if we were to approve it and look at reviewing it?
Yeah.
Well, I'd go with that. I'd approve it and then review it after 6 months.
Are you proposing then to approve the grants policy as it is?
I will propose that we approve the grants policy as it stands, because it says approve on the agenda.
And then can we review it after at the end of the financial year?
So the proposal is to approve the grants policy and review it after 12 months. Comments? Points of discussion? Go on, you're out there.
No, with all great respect, with no microphones, it was a bit like a private meeting going on at the table.
Sorry.
We've got people in public.
Public, that's it.
Yeah, I've got coming from all sides. I thought we were having a council meeting.
Sorry, I apologise, Darren.
No.
Sorry. Comments, ladies and gents?
Looks as good to me as it did when we first got it, so...
Well, I'll trust in what you've put then.
Okay.
So, what you said.
The only shame is that we reduced the grants in the budget.
So
in pursuance of your larger but smaller but larger, fewer but larger.
Okay, it's been seconded by Councillor Thornton. All those in favour?
Review again, sorry, 12 months.
Review in 12 months. All those in favour? Clive, are you?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you very much. The grants committee will then consider the grants specifically, so we will. But it's approved, finally. Item 10.6, this was one jointly by myself and Colin. So we had a question from a member of the public about when the council and charity were going to repair and replace play equipment, and now it's on the agenda. Colin, anything that you wanted to say on this one?
Well, I was going to say, whilst you were doing this, I was also thinking email contact with a company that specialises in supplying to
Sorry, Colin, could you use the microphone?
I was in touch with a company that supplies to other villages in Parish Council, and they were good enough to send me 4 or 5 separate documents. Unfortunately, last week, my printer decided to go on strike, so I can't comply. From what I've been able to read on the internet, I can't see any prices. But what they have done, they've listed, hopefully I'll bring it next time, quite a lot of equipment,
suits all age ranges and is constructed in such a way that children can use their energy on climbing and sliding and what have you. They undertake to remove old equipment if they will do under the terms of their insurance and replace it with a new if you decide to go ahead. That's basically it at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So the clerks also just before we got Stuart and then we got Darren. Just for information, the clerk has put some approximate costings in the pack today. So Stuart, then Darren, then Miles.
Right, I'm not going to let it come from this one. The information that's been put in front of us, I don't think it's been put in front of the install these tags and this could be a decision.
Sorry, could you grab the microphone?
But when you look at the information that's been put in front of us, look at the prices start to mount quite significantly, quite quickly. I think what should happen, if Colin's willing to do it, is I think we need some form of report to say what the state the equipment, and probably all the parks, because most of the wooden equipment were all installed around about the same time, 7, 8 years ago. So if we've got some equipment that we've had to take down because it's no good no more, it may be a major programme that we're looking at replacing stuff, and at these prices it's getting beyond probably our capability at the moment. I think the first thing we need is we need some form of a report just to identify what we may need, if we wish to replace the stuff, because nobody's come and complained yet about the stuff we've taken down. The piece of equipment over there has not been working for years, and to be honest, as far as I'm aware, we've had no complaint about it for at least 3 or 4 years. So I think first of all we need some form of report coming back to us saying what the situation is, what the proposals are and any potential costs, and once we've got that then we can have a serious in-depth discussion what we do. What's worrying me is if these wooden facilities here are breaking down as it were, what's the rest of them like?
Sorry, do you mind if I just butt in?
Not at all.
I just had some confirmation from the clerk. So although some of the figures run to the thousands in the pack here, the clerk is aware of some grant funding that the council's eligible for play equipment. Sorry, Darren.
Generalising about our parks, our play areas in North and South Anston, I think we're actually quite shambolic, to be honest. And lady said earlier about Todwick, it absolutely, it just shows you how poor ours is. If you go up to their park and have a look there, they've really got it sussed. They've made a really good job of it. They've got fence. I mean, we're desperate for a fence round for this kiddies area. Why we shouldn't even be looking at equipment until we've done the infrastructure work. We need fences up. The park at South Anston is absolutely dreadful. And I suggest we put it on the agenda to have a general talk about what we want for kids going forward, what we need, and assess it all as one, rather than just picking individual parks and individual pieces of equipment out. It's a big investment.
Yeah. Miles and then Clive and then Christine.
Well, as someone who's been doing work with a lot of the kids in the area, something which has already been mentioned in previous meetings, and again I agree with you, Stuart, we do need a comprehensive report of this area, what we need or what can be done. I think we should again be willing to invest in somebody who can find us more money so we can do it all in one go. And as I asked earlier, Clive, you said David Alderoy. That has been mentioned before again in other meetings. All I ask is how can we do this? How can we do it? Does it have to be a committee? Can it be something that can be decided in a meeting? We need to think of timescales as well, because we can't just leave things like this doing. I mean, again, I've been working on a project for a while now. It doesn't look good if it's been left for a while when you're trying to compose all these different quotes together, and it will be good if we could get a professional in who can do it for us on our behalf, because these people are paid for it. I mean, we're all just members of the public. These people do this every day, and I think it would be a good investment for us to go out and do that.
Thank you.
Clive?
I'm not sure whether somebody behind the council were, but
Could you use the mic, please?
sorry, a lot of the new equipment, I say new, of course, like every other play area, it gets vandalised and it breaks down. This and I think two of the other areas, if you remember, they were paid for by Play Pathfinder money about 6, 7, 8 years since. We had 50,000 spent on here, I think 50,000 on one of the other play areas. So that sort of money is out of our compass. We can't afford to do that as a village council. So the only way you're going to look to renewing the equipment or buying it is from a grant somewhere or funding application. Now, I go down to Woodset's Parish Council meetings quite on a regular basis, and Miles used to live there, he's aware of the situation. They've kept applying for money. I think the latest one they've got is for the exercise equipment.
You want the gym, outdoor gym.
An outdoor gym it's called, and they managed to get the mugger down there, but that took them quite a long time. It's finding the right funding stream that will pay that money. But we were lucky with this because it was planned for Wickersley, I think, in a couple of areas, and where it's supposed to go, I think they decided to build some houses on it, so that money was surplus. We put a bid in for it, and we had to get lucky and got this, and I think maybe Kendall Avenue one up there, and I'm not sure about Southampton, whether we got it for all three, but we got quite a lot of money. But that's the sort of financial level you're talking about to start renewing these, and I think Stuart's quite right. We need an overall report on all three areas. We need some assessment of what state this equipment's in, state it's in, and how we go about replacing it. Do we do it area by area? As I say, it's not, we can't afford it as a parish council, it's way beyond that. I mean, some of these pieces of equipment are £4,000 and £5,000 a time. So there's only so many you can buy. It's like a drop in the ocean. It doesn't improve an area. Put in one thing, and as Darren said about the fence, unfortunately it's chicken and egg. Unless you know what you're going to put on there, you don't know how big an area fencing you want to start off with. So it's doing the two in tandem. You've got to see what equipment's available. And I've spoken to Anna about it, and there's a guy at Rotherham Borough Council deals with all their play areas, such as the one at Greenlands Park, Stuart Kenny, and he will come and give us some advice on that and have a look round. And they're buying equipment all the time. You know Stuart, don't you?
But how do we do that as a council or as a committee?
But I think we need to do that as a council to get somebody in as separate. That's all he does is look after the players. We need somebody with that knowledge to come and have a look and give us some hopefully free advice and to see which route we go down. But it needs tackling as a full project throughout the parish. But it's not going to be a quick fix. But as I say, we've got to apply for funding because that's the only way we're going to get some of these pieces of equipment. And as I say, Woodsets are still trying to get about a third bid, I think, for that.
Which is why I mean we should invest in somebody like that.
Outdoor gym, which is but I think even from those, they like you to put some money towards it, I think, as a part state. So we need to be looking as a council, if we're looking to do things like this, it's like the Lichgate where we apply for money for that, but you would need to have some money in a pot for that. Likewise, the play area, so at least you show that you're thinking about being involved in that, put some money aside from the parish to start that work. So I think we need to sit down with a professional funder, I think, my belief, and take it from there and see what we do. But we also need a report on these areas. Sorry, Joe.
Christine, can somebody give Christine a microphone?
It's actually sorted.
Well done.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick, Miles just asked the question, how do we go about doing this? Well, if you'd like to volunteer, Miles, the best way to do this is to set up a working group, and you probably only need yourself and a couple of others. Go around the parks, identify what you think's wrong, come up with some ideas, make a short report to councillors. Once we agree, disagree, look at the way forward, that's then the period when we will make a decision how we're going to fund it, whether we're going to go for grants, etc. But you have to start the project. Again, as well, I agree with what Clive's saying to a certain part, you've got to get professionals on board. But I think at the early stages, you have to do the groundwork yourself to get the momentum moving, because what you find is the more people you start to consult who are so-called professionals, the more interest they have, the more they want to put their own input in, the more recommendations they do, so that My suggestion is set a working group up first, get the momentum moving, get the general plan decided, come up with some suggestions of what equipment you want, and once we've got to that stage, then we'll have a chat as a council, and then we'll look at moving on to the next stage. That's probably the best way of doing it.
I've
got other projects on at the moment.
I will actually do that. I'll take that because I'm already doing a lot of consultation on some of these parks already anyway.
So, I can't stick my hand up and get myself to speak, but, so at the last meeting of with Anna with the Finance Committee, Clive made us aware that there was an offer a while ago for the chair to meet with David Oldroyd, I think that's the correct name, isn't it, funding advisor. And we agreed there that I would go and meet him to look at the grants. Miles, do you want to come with me and we do it together?
Yeah.
So could I propose that Miles and I investigate the grants? The clerk's aware of some grants, so that we get together and we look at the grants.
And any other councillors,
any other councillors that want to come. And we suss out exactly which grants we can apply for and what the funding is. So, I mean, the quotes that we've got in here are from 1 to 10,000 for the.
But that's for one small area.
For the equipment for one small area.
We can come back to that, though, can't we?
Yeah. There is one thing that is being.
Are we happy with that?
Get some money.
I don't think that one needs a formal vote. It's just a case of. Do you want us to?
Do you want to take this next?
Just go to. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Item 10.7, Councillors Jackson and Thornton. So this is the implications of the South Yorkshire Police decision not to police Bonfire Night or the Remembrance Day Parade.
Yes, can I just, I think have we discussed this before? I think we have. This has been raised at various sources, and the implications are that South Yorkshire Police, because of manpower, lack of manpower, etc., that they're not intending to police Remembrance Day services this year. And this affects, I think it came out at Dinnington when British Legion approached them for officers to attend and manage the traffic, etc. this year, and they were told that it was highly unlikely that anybody would be there, so as a result it looks as though their parade may not go ahead. And ours is in a similar situation because we start off from the parish car park onto Wrighton Road, across the A57 and then up to the church. At this moment in time we're not going to be able to do that. If we stick to that route, there are going to be no officers on the Wrighton Road or to stop the traffic on the A57. Stuart and I were to Dinnington Town Council meeting the other week, and the Chief Superintendent was there, Inspector Butterworth, or Chief Superintendent Butterworth. Stuart had a word with him outside the meeting, because he was due to go to a meeting in Rotherham with other parish council reps, and we decided that if Stuart had a word, it might save us a journey, which I think in fact it did, because he said at this moment in time there were no plans to police these events. And this also applies to Bonfire Night, and we traditionally exit people onto Wrighton Road and keep them away. So this has turned into a bit of a double-edged sword. Ironically, at that meeting, the Police and Crime Commissioner was there. He was asked a question about this, and he said, basically, I'll ensure that there is sufficient manpower for these to go ahead. But then we've got Chief Superintendent saying, I haven't got enough bodies to do it, and it's not going ahead. So at this moment in time, I went to an area assembly meeting last week and met Inspector Fennell, I think it is, who said that because of the Police and Crime Commissioner's commitment, which I heard him say, and so they do it, they're having another look at it. So we don't know where we are at this moment in time. It might be that they can find sufficient staff. We really don't know, but that doesn't help matters, because we can't plan anything until we know what's going on. This is obviously organised by the church normally, but the vicar is leaving the church in September, and I don't think we'll have a new one until next year. So somewhere along the line, someone's got to pick this up and organise it, but it may well be that there is no police presence for either. I'm not sure about the Bonfire Night, but that leaves us. That was a bit of a headache last year, because we went out on the road and we stopped the traffic, but I think again South Yorkshire Police have raised concerns. They waited till from Bonfire Night in 2014 till Bonfire Night 2015 nearly before they raised this issue with us about exiting onto Wrighton Road, which nearly stopped it, but again, we're in a position we don't know whether we can go ahead. I know the bonfire has been looked at in a different location, but whether we still stick with it here for this year, I don't know, so that's the implications that it has. Do you want to say a few words?
Can I just clarify? Point of clarification, then Darren, then Stuart. At the last meeting, we did the council resolved to hold bonfire night here.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So in that
Darren.
respect, it's still here in the parish.
Yeah, I'm just a bit shocked what you're saying.
Discussed it, yeah.
Are you actually saying if we can't get somebody to police the exit from the bonfire, what's the implications that there is no bonfire?
It's your insurance.
It's the insurance, it's the fact that they probably haven't got any staff to come to the bonfire night.
Well, why can't we do that ourselves?
We can't stop.
Bearing in mind that we've just done, we've just done the traffic. Excuse me. We need to close the road for bonfire night.
For insurance
Can I just come in and give some reasons why it's a problem?
No, you can, as soon as I finish, because I'd just like to carry on.
Right.
So, probably two of the most important days, the one at the church and the bonfire night for all the community, because us as councillors, grown-up people by the way, can't go and stop some traffic. The thought is that we'll cancel Remembrance Day and bonfire night. Because that's how it sounds, that it's leading down that path. And that's the bit that concerns
So
me.
we can't go on to the A57 and stop traffic with the crossing.
There's legal implications. and
Okay,
there's insurance
all right, let me
implications.
throw this back to you then, guys. Why is it that this week, on the archaeological dig, that Mr Thornton was directing traffic off the main road?
Right.
No idea.
You should have.
At one point, I walked into the...
Which I have no problem with, by the way,
Right.
Stuart.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, the majority of people I spoke to was on our land, as it were. I did stand in the road once or twice because the car stopped in the road. But let me see if I can elaborate on what you're
Please,
saying.
because I
Right.
feel that there's something...
Let me just go on the bonfire quickly, then I'll go on what's been happening with the Remembrance Day parade. It was suggested, or it's been suggested, that we employ security guards to seal off the road, etc., etc. I can't remember if I spoke to the Chief Inspector about that, but the point I was making to him is security guards have no legal right to step into a road to stop traffic. If they do, they get knocked over for whatever reason, who's going to pay the insurance? And it's quite a costly insurance. It's not a case of being killjoys and we're not going to do anything. It's a case of we have some serious implications of people stopping traffic. We can apply for a planning permission to close the road between a certain time. And I think we'll struggle to get that because it's been a main road. It's something we're going to have to sit and talk about at some future date, probably these bonfire meetings, because it has serious implications. Going on to Remembrance Day parade, it's like going on to the Remembrance Day parade. I, for want of a better word, collared the Chief Inspector outside the meeting, and I put it to him fairly strongly that I didn't think it was right that they weren't policing our parade this year, a parade that's probably been going on since the 1920s. I explained to him why we need police there, because of the traffic, etc., because of the guides, the scouts and the brownies who were in the main road with us. The only answer he kept coming up with, he hasn't got the manpower. And I said, well, you've supplied it every other year, etc. And all he kept saying was, I haven't got the manpower. And he did suggest, he says, one of the things they're looking at, or they were going to suggest at this meeting the following week, which I didn't go to, because I believe it was a waste of time, they were saying they're going to put forward ideas like, we're probably in this, what is the main thing he was saying? In the past, the south of the borough, i.e. Anston and all around this area, have had a proportionally higher number of policemen on duty in this area than we have in other areas of Rotherham. One of the solutions he suggested, and I don't think it was a plan as such, is that maybe councils need to come together and say, do we need to look at having in year one we have a parade here, in year two we have one at Maltby, in year three we have one at Dinnington. And he said in that way they may well be able to find police to police them. The overall residing issue is very unlikely we're going to have a police presence on the A57 for this year's Remembrance Day parade. I know I'm going on, we're trying to be quick. I brought this up at the Yorkshire Local Councils Association, and backed by another person, David Rowley, who suggested we write to the Police and Crime Commissioner as a Yorkshire organisation, South Yorkshire branch, and ask them why they're not providing this police cover, and suggesting they do a risk assessment, and if they do risk assessments on all the parades, maybe with a view to policing, should we say, the most dangerous. I know they've written to the Police and Crime Commissioner, but I don't know what the reply is yet. At the end of the day, we pay our taxes. Remembrance Day is one of the most important, should we say, community days in the calendar, and the police, who we pay taxes for, who just this year again put our taxes up, they should be coming here and policing and working for the community, especially on Remembrance Day parade.
Absolutely.
One of the things, if we can't make that police presence, we're going to have to have a look and see if we can work out where we can start the parade from Southampton. I've been racking my brains and I can't think of anywhere where you can start a parade with brownies, scouts, whoever else, probably out in the movies. It depends on what the weather's like as much as anything else. It's a bad day and you've got a parade, you will need some sort of police presence at the front of that, at the back to stop traffic. And the thing is, wherever you go in Southampton, you're still going to have to go on a road to get to the church, and then people are sort of on the road and on the footpath there. So it does need. I mean, last year we were very fortunate about that. The police, our police officer at Lane Reed, and we had about 4 or 5 PCSOs and staff who did a fantastic job. Jonathan was there, Stuart was there as well, marshalling that, and it went off really well, no problems, really good. But this year, so we can't have that police presence then. We can't start from here, we're going to have to look as well if we organise it in somewhere in Southampton. Never as good as if we parade up to the church, but it's something we're going to have to look at. With regard to bonfire night, the town and parish council, or parish and town council meeting on Thursday, the issue of road closures for events like that is on the agenda, because Dinnington have got a problem with their carnival in November, their Christmas carnival, because they were charging and the leg last year to shut the road off, so that is up for discussion at that meeting, so I'll bring that back to the next one to see what we arrive at with that one.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm just conscious of
sorry,
time.
no, I'll leave it, I'll let it ride. It's okay.
Okay. I had Jonathan with his hand up. Anything specific that you want to add?
Well, as a borough council, I hope it's going to be something positive.
Of course, always positive. I want to say...
Have you got it, Mike? Oh, actually, you're shouting.
What Clive said about the area assembly, they've come back and said there's no final decision been made yet, that we're not going to release the Remembrance Day. And even if you do come back and say we're not going to do it, it will not stop us handling, because we should still, we'll do on somewhere, we're not going to let that cancel out. Right.
I hope so.
We'll manage it tonight.
Yeah.
Well, all due respect, you can't have a parade.
Yeah, but all of those can't do this.
We will have a parade.
We'll do it.
Police there or not, we'll do one tonight.
You can't parade because you have to use the road.
And with the bonfires,
Lights.
I've brought my son here for the past 9 years.
Can we listen to Jonathan, please?
I remember a couple of years, the ones were closed. But because of the amount of people, polite waiting. So we don't have to close the road.
Absolutely. Courtesy.
I think you've been with this guiding this, Jonathan, because what they've said to the borough councillors and all the police as well, that there will need to be a road closure in place this year. We got away with it last year and the year before, but it's something that we're going to...
But if we didn't have one...
Who's going to come and enforce it?
Well, I'm standing out on Brighton Road in the middle of traffic where we haven't got a road closure or anything like that, because I'm not putting myself... You what, sorry?
We never do.
I know, but things have...
Okay, ladies and gents, can we... it's 9 minutes past.
I agree, it's time, Drew, and it needs putting back on the...
I'm going to... It needs to come back, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to curtail discussion there, otherwise we're not going to get through the items that we need to. Ladies and gentlemen, can we be quiet, please?
I've never had a problem going home from here on bonfire night when the road was closed or
Can we refer this to the next meeting? I'm sorry, colleagues, we've got to move into... You were just going to say, can we move it to the next meeting? Thank you.
Can I just say, on the agenda for the next
Well, we've been talking about.
On the agenda, early in the agenda, we'll investigate the options. Thank you. But it won't cancel bonfire night.
There's a final decision of no, there's no police, because at the moment, we're not going to know.
Well, that's what I said, there's still people.
Yeah, so we can't really
You're getting pressure.
We don't know. Keep the pressure on borough councillors, keep the pressure on.
Do your job, boys. Keep the pressure
Okay,
on.
so we're going to have to miss some of those items in the agenda. They'll come back to the next
10.8
one.
can't be
We'll
missed.
still not get onto the DO, unfortunately. Item 13, we'll resolve to adjourn the
10.8 can't be
meeting.
missed, Drew.
Sorry?
10.8 can't be missed, we need to have confirmation for that.
No, we're going to confidential
Let's go.
session.
Sorry.
I've skipped down. We need to go into public session before we go into confidential session.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep. Okay, so item 13, to resolve to adjourn the meeting in order to allow the public to raise any issues regarding today's meeting. We have to keep it precisely to 10 minutes. So this is for questions relating to today's meeting. Okay, we'll take either three gentlemen back.
I'm just thinking about this piece where I don't think you put these gates on each side on this public session. I can't understand why you've done that, because there's nobody in this room going to benefit. I don't think everybody in this room is quoted for it, so all you're looking at is quotes. And
I've got to agree.
these people that are actually here today, if you thought for 1 minute that there was anything that asking is confidential or honestly are, why didn't you postpone the meeting for 10 minutes, put that into confidential so that you can give these people an answer that you sat here all night? That would be right.
Okay. Can I just reply very quickly on that point, and then I think Stuart might have to say something. So this meeting today will finish at 9:30, and will be available afterwards for any questions. So the reason it's in confidential session is because we have several different quotes.
You know what I'm saying? There's nobody in this room that would benefit from them quotes. There's no reason why it should be confidential.
We don't normally release quotes that businesses have provided.
They don't hide things. They don't do. They don't hide things.
Can I just come in and try and clarify a bit more? And I apologise if it sounds cryptic. There are other issues involved besides the financial aspect of it. And it's to do with the law that RMBC have quoted in their letters to us. I can't say much more about it, but there has to be a possible discussion over legal implications. I'm just sorry, I can't say no more. That's why I've asked you to go into confidential session. I assure it's not to hide any information from yourselves. It's the way we do things, and the way we have to do things.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Question at the back.
Yeah, it's, you know these kids' parents, I mean, you sit to me and say, well, we'll get away from you, we'll build a side and what's when? The problem is that what I want to know is, if you really want to know how to get value from money, ask the people of the village who are going to use it. That's the young ones that kids, what sort of equipment are they wanting? It's no good providing any sort of play for you if it's not going to get used. So the best way forward, the best way forward, and the best way to actually attain value for money is find out what drugs you're trying to target for these kids to be using. That's what you've got to do. And also what you've got to do then is, how long these working groups will get to put councillors will go to working groups and even men? It's no good letting this drag on, because while you're dragging on, your equipment's deteriorating time by time. It's far better off to buy the bullet, replace a little bit of it, instead of just waiting until you've got a directly massive bill to replace the lot.
Councillor Manship and then Councillor Thornton.
That first stage into the consultation. There's lots of ways we can do that. I think we need to improve the way we do that as well, so people get the message better. The only thing, again, that will take some time. The only thing is which bits were then replaced, but if it then doesn't match the consultation, then we've made a mistake with certain anyway, but we need to think about that.
You've got two pieces of equipment, one what's been got for years, one what's only out there. So that's the two pieces you would start. If you could have two pieces of equipment, 3 new ready players, on this part, what would be the effect?
Well, that'll be the consultation. You don't want much consultation.
Well, if it's going to cost you 5,000 quid,
pull it out 28 was already.
It's not, we're not here to discuss all
Can I
that.
just come in quickly then? Just-
I can tell you what it is. I've had 2 children at this house. I've got grandchildren at this house. I hear everybody in that park. I can tell you exactly what they want. And I can tell you exactly what would be best done in there. Now, I've spent years.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I am actually going to have to cut you off, because we have a question here and we have a reply from Councillor Thornton. But I think definitely we need to get members of the public involved, so.
Can I just say quickly, I can understand probably there may be frustration when we say we have to form working groups. End of the day, we're here to represent the people. And part of that representation is we have a duty to ensure that we're providing value for money. You may well say just bite the bullet and pay for it, £5,000 figure you mentioned, but there's not just this part here, and as I explained to yourself before, it's not just Lockwood. We have to look at an overall bigger picture. Yes, it's a slow process, we have to go through it. This thing about ask what the children want, I don't think anybody would disagree with that, but you've also got to remember, we're like you. We have children, grandchildren, etc., and we're all kids ourselves, so we know what's good and what's bad. It's just the way parish councils operate. You cannot start jumping over like committees and working groups. We have to ensure that we're getting value for money. And as for the 28,000 went over this year, that's a magic pot, is that? Because I think we've already spent it about 5 times. We've not only got that, we've got other major projects we need to be looking at. One of the major projects we haven't even discussed yet, which probably will be coming up very soon, is the potential for a new cemetery. And we haven't got a clue what's that going to cost. And that's why we're being slightly cautious in when we come to spending money. If we've got the money, and we've got the way to do things, and we've got the things in place to do it, I'm quite sure the councillors will vote for things. But it's not just as simple as saying, I want this, I want that.
No, it's not.
I know it's not.
Okay, we have a question on the far right.
I know it's not just as simple as saying I want this and want that, but what I'm saying is, how many working groups has this council created and not made it any?
I think we've only got...
That's not the question.
You're just putting this working group further down this. If you wait for a working group at cemetery, you'll have 100 people outside of your coffins.
One question per left.
True.
Thank you.
The member of Smart, couldn't you just control the traffic light? Or whatever, somebody come out and just turn on the left.
I think Clive has...
You answer the question then, Clive. 'cause-
Well, that's down to Robert Wood Council.
Christine.
Clive, can
answering the
Clive reply to the point, please, because Clive is
Can
informed.
I just say that you will have to get the Borough Council to do that. So it's entirely at their whim, but I don't, whether they do it or not, I don't know. But they'd have to have somebody out here with a new charge, I would think, to do it on Sunday morning to shut the traffic lights off. It's easy, you just have a policeman stood on the crossroads for 5 minutes, and it's done and dusted.
We know that, but they won't do it.
We ain't do it.
You might find it down to the traffic lights, either.
It's an option, though. Well,
It's an option, but, I don't know whether they would take that on board or not, no sense.
can we ask that? Can we ask that
We need to
question?
be at the point where we need to look at that as an option if the police decide in the wisdom that we're going to try and police it, then we're all right. But going back to the road closure, out here we had 2 PCSOs when we were here, that were there stopping the traffic there and lower down. If the police don't sort of resource that, then we can't stand out on that road and shut that traffic off for 5 to 10 minutes because we get to shoot as a parish council. Because you've got to have that legal officer. If they don't provide any staff for this bonfire, which again is debatable, then we're going to have nobody out on the road to help us control the traffic.
So ultimately what happens then? Are we cancelling bonfire night? Are you suggesting
No,
that
I'm not saying
could
that,
happen?
but I'm saying that there may be a road closure you have to pay for as well. That's what we pay nobody at reducing the cost of bonfire night, but I think that's what we should be doing, because if we have to fund something else, then you know that can come out of the savings, so it swings around actually. But how we go on with this road closure and the lack of police presence, I don't know. But as I said, this was brought up. We never had a problem for years until 2 years since when a policeman actually came past, I think, on the night when bonfire night was taking place, and he saw what was happening, and he came back to the council, Michael.
Thanks, Clive.
And he left nearly a full year before he decided to speak to himself.
Right, if for a traffic management company on to put lights up over one side.
Well, you've got to get an approval then for it. It's the highway authority.
Okay, I'm going to have to end this particular part of the meeting because we're out of time. Different parts of the meeting.
And if Rotherham Council refused to let you have that on project, it would be them putting themselves in the position you're in now.
Okay, so we're back into the council meeting itself.
We can't organise things on their road.
So on to item 14, to resolve to exclude the press and public due to the confidential nature of the business to be somebody.
That we resolve to exclude the press and public due to the confidential nature and contractual nature of the business to be transacted.
Proposed by Stuart, seconded by Miles. All those in favour? Okay. Can we ask the members of the public to leave for the time being? Thank you.